Good morning, friends. Greetings and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm your host, Pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I specialize in using nutritional supplements where other healthcare practitioners use toxic pharmaceutical drugs and sometimes deadly medical procedures. If you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your health and vitality and well-being into addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be, but you don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your bodies, you are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health challenge. That's why we're here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 30 years of practicing pharmacy, I have seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes, hypertension, obesity, skin diseases like psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, acne, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds. Recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle. But what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure. Because the human biological system, the human body, is a healing system. It's a regenerating system. It is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis. And while some folks may call that healing, renewing, regenerating system a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. If you have questions about health or nutrition or prescription drugs, we want to hear from you. We welcome your phone calls on The Bright Side. Our number 844-236-6010. It's 844-236-6010 if you have questions about the longevity products or formulations or health challenges that you or a loved one may be dealing with. If you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we can help you do that. 844-236-6010 is our number on The Bright Side. If you want to purchase any of the longevity products you hear advertised on the program or recommended on the program, please call the Bright Side Ben phone team at 866-735-2470. That's 866-735-2470. You can also purchase products right off our websites, brightsideben.com, criticalhealthnews.com, or pharmacistben.com. And if you want to check out our Truth Skin Health products, Retinol 5% Gel, as well as Truth Serum, Truth Balm, and Truth Omega-6 Healing Cream, made with only active and functional ingredients, never any fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, water, silicone, oil, preservatives, fragrances, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our Truth Treatment products. Check out our Truth Treatment products at truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. And don't forget about our bone broth protein, Jordan Rubin's bone broth protein powder, which you can find at brightsidehealth.com. That's brightsidehealth.com. Okay, thanks for joining us once again on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. We're talking about the ketogenic diet and fat processing, helping the body process fats. Remember, there's two classes of chemicals in the body. There's two classes of chemicals in all of nature, water-soluble chemicals and fat-soluble chemicals. In the body, you've got water-soluble nutrients and fat-soluble nutrients. Your water-soluble nutrients, the B complex, vitamin C, the electrolytes, some of the minerals, some of the amino acids are water-soluble. Water-soluble nutrients give you quick sparks of energy. They carry electricity very effectively. They hand off electricity very effectively. They channel electricity very effectively. Fats, on the other hand, they're a bit trickier. They require a lot of digestive resources: gallbladder, liver, intestine, pancreas, digestive juices. A lot of stuff has to go right for us to be able to handle our fats correctly, and that's why the ketogenic diet, which is a high-fat diet, is kind of tricky. If you're going to go high-fat, you got to pay attention to how you process fat. And there's lots of things you could do to help the body support fat processing. If you're going to go ketogenic, which is a 40, 50, 60, 70, well, actually probably about 60 to 80% fat, let's say. It can go as high as 90%, maybe as low as 45%. But really, you want to be somewhere around 60 to 70% of your calories coming from fat. If you're going to go ketogenic and start eating all that fat, you got to be careful. If you have a gallbladder problem, you got to be careful. If you have a pancreatic problem, you got to be careful. Intestinal problem, you got to be careful with all that fat, because you're not going to be able to process it as effectively. Fats are tricky. Water-soluble nutrients are not as tricky. 100 million Americans have liver disease, fatty liver disease. 500,000 Americans lose their gallbladder every year. 70 million Americans have some kind of digestive disease, intestinal health disease usually. If your stomach is not secreting digestive acids or making enough digestive enzymes, you could have a problem with fat metabolism. So if you're going to go ketogenic, you really want to understand how to support your body's ability to process fats. There's lots of supplements you can take. Vitamin E, we talked about that one. That one is really important. If you're going to up your fats in any way, not even if you're just going to start using your ultimate EFAs, say you don't want to go ketogenic, but say you want to start upping your essential fatty acids, your ultimate EFAs, or say you want to start using EFAs. Now, most reputable EFA supplements will have a little vitamin E in them, but it's still a good idea to make sure you're taking 400 international units of vitamin E a day. If you're going to go ketogenic, or if you're going to start using your ultimate EFAs, or if you're just going to increase the amount of fats or essential fatty acids that you include in your diet. 400 IU of vitamin E a day is a good idea. Carnitine, we talked about that one. Carnitine is an amino acid-like substance that's also helpful for helping the body process fats, particularly for helping the body derive energy from fat. It's not so much protective. It doesn't so much protect fats like vitamin E, but it helps the body use fats. Likewise, something called alpha lipoic acid. We're going to talk about that one. That's one of my all-time favorite supplements. Alpha lipoic acid helps both protect fats and also helps the body utilize fats for energy. In fact, alpha lipoic acid is part of the ketone production chemistry. It's part of ketone production chemistry. So if you're going to go ketogenic, you'd probably be smart to take 400 or so milligrams of alpha lipoic acid a day. It can help support ketogenesis. Alpha lipoic acid is a little bit pricey, but in my opinion, it's well worth it. Alpha lipoic acid's got numerous health benefits. We talked to Julia Shopik a few times in this program about her book, Honest Medicine. She's a big believer in using alpha lipoic acid for liver disease, and she's right. It's one of the liver's most important nutrients. Alpha lipoic acid is important for sugar metabolism. Alpha lipoic acid can help protect fats, and alpha lipoic acid, as I say, is also ketogenic in the sense that it helps the body make ketones out of fats. Then we come to fiber. There's two kinds of fiber. You've got insoluble fiber, the kind that does not dissolve in water. Think about those wiry strands that you find in a stalk of celery. That's a classic example of insoluble fiber. And then there's soluble fiber, the kind that does dissolve into water. Soluble fiber contacts water and sucks it up like a mop kind of sucks up water, or a sponge will suck up water. In fact, a sponge is large, contains soluble fiber. That's one of the ways that sponges work. Soluble fiber swells up when it contacts water and forms a gel. That's why it's used to treat intestinal diseases. It can mop up excess water in the intestine for folks dealing with diarrhea. On the other hand, it can help bulk up stools for people who are dealing with constipation. And numerous studies have shown that soluble fiber can help our body process and eliminate fats, particularly blood fats. And this makes eating soluble fiber a very important dietary strategy for folks who are worried about atherosclerosis, elevated cholesterol, heart disease, as well as liver disease and diabetes. Soluble fiber is found in lots of foods. It's always best to get your soluble fiber. It's always best to get your nutrients from foods in general. Soluble fiber is found in oats and barley and beans and peas, legumes in general, carrots, fruits like apples and pears are rich sources of soluble fiber. Figs are a good source of soluble fiber. Dates can handle all that sugar. Interestingly, the sugar that's in whole foods is released out of the foods much more slowly when you have soluble fiber present. That's one of the advantages to getting sugar from fruits as opposed to getting sugar from processed foods. Soluble fiber helps slow down the release of sugar. If you don't want to go with foods, you can go, and it is always best to go with foods, I should say, but if you want to use soluble fiber supplements, things like Benefiber, Citrusal, FiberSure are also sources of soluble fiber that you can get supplementally. Psyllium, which is found in Metamucil, is also a source of soluble fiber. Metamucil actually has some insoluble fiber in addition to soluble fiber. It's about 70% soluble fiber and 30% insoluble fiber. One of the all-time great forms of soluble fiber is something we talked about in our last program, really important for helping the body. Well, we'll talk about it when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Okay, we are back on the bright side. Pharmacist Ben here. Thanks for joining us. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 on our archive pages at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and benfuchsarchives.com. You can also check out our blog at criticalhealthnews.com. And, of course, you can purchase longevity products off all the websites, or you can call the Brightside Ben phone team at 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470. Ask them about joining the Brightside Ben team for a one-time $25 fee. You can start a longevity business and help spread the word about the importance and power of a good nutritional supplement program. You can also make some money doing good work, helping change lives, helping improve lives. You can make a little money. You can make a lot of money. You can make residual income. Call 866-735-2470 or sign up to join the Brightside Ben team right off the websites criticalhealthnews.com, pharmacistben.com, or brightsideben.com. Okay, our number 844-236-6010, 844-236-6010. If you have questions about the longevity products or formulations or ingredients, or you have a success story you'd like to share, or if you just want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll get your calls here just bottom of the hour, as we always do, 844-236-6010. We're talking soluble fiber, insoluble fiber. We'll talk about insoluble fiber a little later. But soluble fiber, particularly this one form of soluble fiber that I absolutely love, can be really, really helpful for a lot of reasons. It helps lower blood fats, for one thing, and that can be important for the digestive system as well as for the heart. It helps mop up excess sugar. It's important for diabetics. It can help swell in the gut, has appetite suppressant effects. And there's one particularly valuable form of soluble fiber that I just absolutely love. It's called beta-glucan. We've talked about that in the past. We talked about it on our last program. Beta-glucan is interesting in the sense that while soluble fibers are typically inert, that is, they don't have a lot of chemistry, they do their work mechanically, not chemically. As they have a mechanical action, they mop up things. They have a mopping up action. They don't necessarily react too much. A little bit probably, but they're not very reactive. With the exception of beta-glucan, which is very reactive, fascinatingly reactive, particularly when it comes to the immune system. Beta-glucan it's hard to come up with a more non-toxic yet potent chemical in all of the natural world than beta-glucan. It's just a form of cellulose, just a form of fiber, but it has some really, really fascinating properties when it comes to the immune system as well as when it comes to healing. It's thought that the use of mushrooms for treating cancer is based on the fact that there's lots of beta-glucan in mushrooms. Beta-glucan is one of the most, it's a form of cellulose, so it's one of the most abundant substances found in the natural world. It's produced in copious amounts by plants, and bacteria, yeast, and fungi. And it has, for some strange reason, an ability to react with the immune system, particularly one kind of cell in the immune system that's called a macrophage or macrophage. That means big eater, macro, big, phage, eating. Macrophages are like Pac-Man, literally. If you looked at a macrophage under an electron microscope and saw it doing its work, it would be just like Pac-Man. In fact, Pac-Man is probably modeled on the macrophage. I don't know if that's true, but it could be. Has a little mouth. The macrophage has a little mouth, and it opens up, and it eats things. I am not kidding you. That's exactly what it does. It eats splinters, and it eats bacteria, and it eats viruses, and it eats cancer. It eats the bad guys. Now, set aside the unbelievably cool nature of the fact that you got cells that eat bad guys, literally. The macrophage can be turned on. The macrophage can be activated, and there are substances in nature that can activate the macrophage. And macrophage activation is actually a tried and true mechanism for staying healthy. Using vitamin C, for example, can help turn on macrophages. This is one of the reasons why vitamin C is so important for the immune system. It turns on macrophages. It helps stimulate their eating propensity, I guess you'd say. And this is where beta-glucan comes in. There's actually a little receptor in the macrophage for beta-glucan. It actually is a little opening in the macrophage that fits beta-glucan. Beta-glucan fits into this little opening like a key fits into a lock, and it turns on the macrophage. In fact, it could be said that nothing in nature is more powerful as a macrophage stimulator than beta-glucan. That's according to an article by Dr. R.C. Mizell. She calls it the most ubiquitous macrophage in nature. This is kind of interesting. All beta-glucan is just a long chain of sugar, long chain of glucose molecules. Glucose is a problem. Well, I shouldn't say it's a problem. Too much glucose is a problem. We need a little glucose, but too much glucose is a problem because it's super duper high energy, super duper quick energy. On the other hand, glucans are glucose molecules just strung together. They're linked in this long chain. That's what a glucan is. It's a long chain of glucose. If you ever heard of something called a fructan, those are kind of interesting too. That's a long chain of fructose. Glucans are long chains of glucose, and when something gets put into a long chain, it has a different quality. Glucose is high energy, but long chains of glucose are not. They can't even be used as energy. Human beings can't use them for energy. Bacteria can do it, but human beings can't use them. On the other hand, glucans, while they can't be used for energy, especially beta-glucan, is an immune booster. It lowers blood fats. It supports skin health. In fact, that's one of the best properties. I started using beta-glucan back in the 1990s in my skin business. I love beta-glucan for the skin. It's important. It's like a natural statin drug. It doesn't work chemically to lower cholesterol, but it works mechanically to lower cholesterol. And it's very important for wound healing. But probably the most notable place where beta-glucan supports health, where beta-glucan has really earned its reputation as a powerful nutritional supplement, is in its anti-cancer properties. And as I say, the long history that mushrooms have as an anti-cancer substance is probably at least partially, if not mostly, due to the fact that mushrooms are loaded with beta-glucan. In Asia, mushrooms are considered to be primary medicine for treating cancer. In fact, beta-glucan is considered to be medicine in Asia for treating cancer. Dr. Russell Blaylock says that it has a significant effect on tumor growth in animal models. The journal Cancer Research recommends using it or suggests using it as an adjuvant or secondary treatment for chemotherapy, to use with chemotherapy. And beta-glucan is not just important for cancer inside the body, it can help protect the skin from cancer on the outside of the body. In fact, this is where I first learned about beta-glucan, was in the skincare world. I started using it when I started my skincare business. I first read about it when I was in college, when I was working for Blistex. Back then, we didn't really have an appreciation for how important beta-glucan was topically, but somewhere around 1990 or so, this company out of Texas discovered that a beta-glucan that was found in yeast had really powerful anti-aging properties. And I remember trying to get this company to let me use their beta-glucan. They wouldn't let me do it. You had to pay a lot of money for a licensing fee. And so I started looking around for alternative sources of beta-glucan. They made the claim, you need our beta-glucan. But I started looking around for alternative sources of beta-glucan. And let me tell you something. You can get a lot of skin health benefits by using any beta-glucan on top of your skin. We'll continue when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back right after this. All right, we are back on The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number, and we do have lines open for you. Hang on if you're on hold. We'll get to you here in just a couple of minutes. I want to talk about a couple of articles here that I think are interesting. 844-236-6010 is our number, and if you want to purchase any of the longevity products you hear advertised on the program, you can call the Bright Side Ben phone team at 866-735-2470. Okay, from the University College at Dublin, immune system plays a major role in the regulation of body weight. This is so important. We often think of the immune system as being our defensive system for bacteria and for viruses and for germs and maybe for trauma. But it turns out that the immune system is also involved in helping us control our weight. If you can't lose the weight, you probably have some kind of immune system issue. And by immune system, I'm talking about inflammation. Remember, the immune system and inflammation are the same thing. The inflammatory process is how the immune system shows up. It's how it does its work. So inflammation equals immunity. This is so important. If you can't lose the weight, or if you've plateaued after you've lost some weight, chances are pretty good your body is in a defensive posture. It's protecting itself from something. Now, that protection can be something psychological, mental, or emotional. We know that the stress hormone cortisol is involved with weight gain via this inflammatory process. According to Professor Donnell O'Shea, consultant endocrinologist at St. Vincent's University Hospital and at University College in Dublin, quote, "We know that people who are obese often have sluggish immune systems and a lower amount of immune cells. It turns out that over the course of time, as the immune system becomes activated long term, it starts to get pooped. It starts to get stressed out. We also know that when cortisol levels are high, immune system activity is suppressed." Bottom line here is support the immune system. If there's something interfering with the body, if there's some kind of inflammatory issue going on, if there's a psychological or mental or health issue going on, all of these can make it harder for you to lose weight. We know that cortisol will cause the thyroid eventually to slow down. And one of the major reasons why we have hypothyroidism is because of elevated cortisol, and hypothyroidism, of course, is also associated with weight gain. Immune system plays a major role in the regulation of body weight. Here's a good one. Fried, grilled, or baked foods, they may affect type 2 diabetes risk. This is an article that is from Diabetologica. It turns out that boiling, steaming, or poaching your foods is the best way to eat your foods if you're concerned about diabetes. And even if you're not concerned about diabetes, if you just want to if you want to live a longer life, we know that more sugar and higher levels of insulin are associated with a shorter lifespan. And one of the reasons is the production of something called AGEs, ages. Scientists being clever, they call these compounds ages, and these ages are produced by the burning or the cooking or the frying of certain foods. AGE stands for advanced glycation end products. When you fry or you grill or you bake your foods, also called dry heat cooking, foods produce these things called AGEs. And higher levels of AGEs have been associated with shorter lifespan. Higher levels of AGEs are associated with eye problems, with circulatory problems, just with general aging and with inflammation as well. So, we've always said on this program you don't want to fry or you don't want to grill your foods at too high a temperature. But according to this article, it's best just to boil, steam, or poach your foods. Okay, 844-236-6010 is our number. Let's go to Diane in Nebraska. Is this my long lost friend Diane?
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning. How you doing, Diane? Where you been?
Oh, listening to you every day.
Oh, I like that. You're not the Diane that scolds me every once in a while on Facebook. Is that you?
Well, somebody has to keep you informed.
Okay, that is you. All right. How are you doing, Diane? Long time no talk.
Not too bad. Not
Good
too bad.
deal. What's going on? How can I help you?
I love the True Treatments.
I appreciate that. Thank you. What are you using?
Yes. I'm using the retinol.
Good deal. And you know how to use it? You didn't overuse it now, right?
No. I've been using it very sparingly.
Oh, good deal. I'm always worried about that one because, people, if they don't know what they're doing, they're going to overuse it, and then they're going to get a little bit of, they get the flaking, and I get these letters, my skin is flaking. And that's actually a good thing if your skin is flaking, because it means nice, new, fresh skin underneath is about to come up and is about to arise to the top. And also it means your product's working, and that's important. I'm sorry to digress there, Diane. How can I help you?
Okay. I'm sorry, but can I mention one thing quickly?
Of course.
I didn't have any flaking, and I don't use it very often, but I do use the glycolic citrus cleanser from Sanitas.
Okay.
Would that make a difference?
Well, I can't really talk about Sanitas because that's just a legal thing that I have when I sold the company, and so I can't really talk about it. Well,
but the glycolic cleanser is kind of doing what the retinol does, right?
No. Retinol's a vitamin. Glycolic is mechanical. Retinol's a vitamin. That's a great question, though, Diane. They have a similar exfoliating effects, but the retinol's a vitamin. So you're going to get vitamin effects that you're not going to get with glycolic. And glycolic's good, and it's pretty darn important. I like lactic a little bit better, by the way. And lactic has got some interesting properties. Lactic is actually found in the skin, and lactic is involved in how cells grow. Lactic acid is involved in how cells grow. In fact, lactic acid is not exactly, but it's a type of hormone. It's a growth factor, lactic acid is, and that's why I prefer using lactic acid in my topical products. Retinol is a vitamin, and you're going to get vitamin effects. You're going to get literal effects inside the cell. You're not going to get those effects with glycolic acid or alpha hydroxy acids. Retinol will actually go into a cell. In fact, it will go into the nucleus of a cell, into the genetics of a cell, where it acts like an epigenetic factor to turn on genes. You're not going to get that from glycolic. So, you probably get some benefits from it, but it's not going to be the same as the retinol. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I just was wondering about the exfoliating factor,
Exfoliating, you'll probably get the same exfoliating benefits, but you won't get the nutritional benefits. You get added benefits with the retinol.
Okay, I understand. Okay. Now for my question.
Yes, ma'am.
My husband, the dentist, my husband went to the dentist. He said he has bone loss and causing loose teeth. Is there a reversal for that?
How old is he?
70.
Okay, that's a great question, too. Let me tell you why. When you have receding gums, you have wrinkles of the oral wrinkles of the mouth, or you have osteoporosis of the mouth. You can call it anything you want, but basically the connective tissue is dissolving, and this is one of the things that happens when we age. We shrivel up. You know what I'm saying? We shrink, we contract. This is part of the aging process. And it doesn't matter whether it's happening in the jaw, or it's happening in the skin, or it's happening in the blood vessels, or it's happening in the bone. It's happening everywhere. You're just noticing it in certain places. Rest assured, if it's happening in one part of the body, it's happening everywhere. We're contracting, we're shriveling up. And so what you want to do is you want to reverse that shrivel. You want to expand the body, and there's several ways to do it. First of all, you got to remove anything that's causing the shriveling, and that is inflammatory factors. And then the second thing is you want to do from the positive side. You want to put things in the body that help support the expansion. Does that make sense? First of all, the contraction and expansion, the way I described that.
Yes,
we're shriveling, contracting. That's what aging is about. All right, hang on, Diane. We'll finish up when we come back. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. Okay, we are back on The Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number. Talking to Diane in Nebraska about bone loss and about, I guess, receding gums, you said? Loose teeth? Is that what we're dealing with here, Diane?
He says bone loss because it's in the jaw. The teeth are loosening. He's
shriveling. Get him on some bone soup, first of all. That's first of all. Liquid protein, liquid minerals, liquid cartilage, very helpful.
How about the bone broth powder?
Yeah, it's good too, but you want both. Bone broth powder is definitely good. That should be like a snack form in the middle of the day. But have him sipping on the chicken soup, the bone broth, as one of his main sources of nutrition. There's several reasons for that. First of all, obviously, because the bone broth has cartilage factors that will help build bone, but also at the age of 70, it's not unlikely that he has digestive health issues, particularly absorption issues, and this usually occurs with bone loss problems like osteoporosis and receding gums, etc. It's just one of the things that happens as we age. And chicken soup, the cartilage will also help protect and help strengthen the intestinal lining. Also, fiber is very important for supporting good bacteria. If he has any specific food problems, he wants foods that he has problems with, I should say. He wants to eliminate those foods. Sugar can be a problem. If he has any propensity towards diabetes or he's gaining weight around the middle, these are all things that are likely because at the age of 70, that's just how we are as Americans. It's unlikely that these problems will not occur in a 70-year-old man. So those are things to watch out for. Of course, minerals will also be important, although not as important as you might think. If you don't have the ability to absorb those minerals, you can take all the calcium and zinc you want, and they're both important for the bones, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the benefit or maximize the benefit, at least, if you're not absorbing them. absorbing these minerals. So interestingly, as we're talking about fats and fat metabolism, the gallbladder is important for the absorption of minerals. The liver is important for the absorption of minerals. Bile in general is important for the absorption of minerals. So correcting digestive health issues is good there. And we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but it turns out that soluble fiber, particularly beta-glucan, can help the body, improve mineral absorption if you're dealing with connective tissue issues, osteoporosis and such. That can be important. And also, I should tell you, vitamin C is literally a key that turns on the production of bone. Without enough vitamin C, in fact, the disease that's caused by vitamin C deficiency is really a disease of the connective tissue, a disease where the connective tissue is not made properly. So vitamin C is the quintessential connective tissue bone building vitamin that you never hear about. Vitamin C is very important. Vitamin D is also important. Make sure he's getting out in the sun and getting vitamin D. Essential fatty acids are also important. Again, these all presuppose that he's absorbing these nutrients, but given that he is, EFAs, the ultimate EFAs, 9 a day, the Osteomag, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, you see where I'm going here. It's pretty much everything, because all of the nutrients are involved with anabolism or building, and what we have here, Diane, is a problem with building. You're not building. Your husband's not building. So pretty much all the nutrients are going to be important, but the ones I mentioned are specifically important. Hope that helps, Diane. Thank you for your call.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Ben?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is oat bran fiber, is that a good source of beta-glucan?
Yeah. In fact, oat bran is actually, I'm not sure if the bran might be more insoluble fiber than soluble fiber. I don't know if it's the bran that has the beta-glucan. That's a very good question, Diane. But oats in general are one of nature's best sources of beta-glucan. I just don't know if it's located in the bran part of the grain or not. I'll have to look into that. But oats in general are a good source of beta-glucan, yes. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do you have an opinion on implants, the ones that they put posts in the jaw?
Well, if you need them, you need them, but they're not going to solve the problem. Remember, he's shriveling up in general. He may see it in his teeth, but his bones are shriveling too. His blood vessels are shriveling too. His frame is shriveling. Everything's shriveling. You follow me? So yes, they'll help him cosmetically, but the problem is still there. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Thanks for your call. Okay, let's go to John in North Dakota. Good morning. Welcome to the Bright Side, John. Johnny? John? Hello?
Me?
Hey, John. What's up, man? I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you, John.
Actually, my name's Josh.
Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. I apologize. What's going on? How can I help you?
I was calling because I wanted to know more about the ketogenic diet plan as far as weightlifting is concerned.
Okay, well, it's the same as the ketogenic diet for anything. The ketogenic diet is it's an efficient energy-producing diet. So anything you do that requires energy, i.e., everything you do, is going to benefit from the ketogenic diet. Every function in the body that requires energy, which is obviously all functions of the body, are going to be improved via the ketogenic diet because it supports energy production. It helps the body get lots of energy without a lot of sparks. I got to contemplate if that's exactly accurate, but that's generally what happens. With sugar burning, you get lots of sparks. With ketones and with fat burning, ketones come from fat burning, you don't get the sparks. And because ketones and fats are super high energy, you get lots of energy with no sparks. That means your heart works better, your brain works better, your nerves work better, your immune system works better, your muscles work better, everything works better. Every cell in the body works better when it's using ketones for energy, when it's generating energy via ketones. So for bodybuilders, for athletes, it's the best way to generate energy. You don't have to worry about the AGEs that we just talked about, the sparks. That's what AGEs are. And again, I'm being very simplistic, but that's generally what they are. AGEs are sparks thrown off of the sugar fire. And you don't have to worry about that with the ketogenic diet. That means you're going to be deriving energy much more effectively for building muscle, for working muscle, which means you'll be building muscle more effectively. Does that help, John? Does that make sense?
It's just there's a lot of contradictory information about.
What contradicts to share with me? Tell me what
weightlifters, right? Like state that, going on low carb is probably the worst thing you can do for like bulking and weightlifting and things like that. That's why
I completely disagree. I completely 100% disagree. However, they have an interesting point, and I'm not sure if you're if you read it wrong or you took it a little bit, took it the wrong way. But because they do have a point, you do need some carbs if you're bodybuilding. Okay, now this is an exception. When we talk about the ketogenic diet, we're talking about the ketogenic diet for the average person. Bodybuilders are going to want to have a little bit more carbs than the average person. You follow me? They're also going to probably want more protein than the average person because they're utilizing it. They're burning the sugar and they're using the protein. So as a bodybuilder, you're probably not going to go as low carb as you would with as a layperson, but you still want to keep your carbs relatively low compared to the fats, in my opinion. More energy from fats. But their point is, I can see what they're saying, that you do need a certain amount of carbs, but nobody's saying high carbs, I don't think. Are they?
It kind of sounds like with some of the stuff I have listed before.
They say high carb? I think that's kind of old school, personally.
That's probably what it is. So I just, because this is new to me too, the ketogenic.
Yeah,
thing,
old school, they were talking about carbs. By old school, I'm talking like 30 years ago, 40 years ago even. By the time, when I was working out big time in the 80s and 90s, we were hip to the low carb thing. Everybody was doing the protein and the fat. That's when Dr. Atkins came out. I don't know if you sound kind of young. I don't know if you know who Dr. Atkins is or if you heard of him. But
I have done the Atkins before, so.
What's that?
I have done it before, so I am
okay. Well, this guy Robert Atkins, he was an MD, and he got big in the 80s and 90s with the Atkins diet. And he was like he's like the godfather of the ketogenic diet. At least, I shouldn't say that because the ketogenic diet's been around for a while, but he was one of the first guys to reintroduce the ketogenic diet, although he didn't call it the ketogenic diet. He was talking about lots of protein and lots of fat, and he was just understood that sugar and insulin can be a problem, with the exception of bodybuilders who need to have some insulin. Remember, insulin's a growth hormone. It makes us grow. So if you're lifting weights and you're an athlete, that's going to be a different kind of growth than if you're the average person sitting on the couch. You see what I'm saying, John? It's the ketogenic diet that we're talking about is for the average person sitting on the couch. If you're an athlete, you do need to have some insulin going. You do need more protein, and you do need more carbs, although I wouldn't go necessarily high carbs. John, I'm going to let you go here, buddy, unless you have anything else.
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, take care, man. Hope we helped you out. Carl, the Truth Raider, you got about 30 seconds here. What's up, Carl?
Ben, I'm sick. It's my ear. Ouch.
You know what my favorite remedy? You got an earache?
Yeah, can you get
That's a miserable feeling. If it is truly an earache, get yourself a electric heater or hot water bottle. That's the best way to deal with an earache, at least temporarily. Gotta let you go, Carl. Thanks for your call, man. Hope you feel better, buddy. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You've been listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. 866-735-2470 is the phone number for the Bright Side Ben team. Give them a call if you want to join the team for a one-time $25 fee. Start yourself a longevity business and help spread the word about the power and importance of a good nutritional supplement program and make some money while you're doing it. Have yourselves an awesome, wonderful, beautiful day. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.